Blazer fans, welcome back to another episode of the Blazer Victory Podcast, episode number 72. This is your co-host, John Duncan, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Steve Irvine. And Steve, for the first time this season, our UAB Blazers were able to get the conference road sweep of the week, beating UTSA and UTEP both on the road and actually getting, they beat them at home too in Bartow earlier in the year. So just definitely good to see the Blazers finally get two in a row on the road, right?
Yeah, and there certainly was nothing pretty about either one.
Oh no,
it was. But I think we're at that stage, the old survive and advance sort of stage right now. Especially with you looking at UAB trying to make sure to get that double bye or get the bye in the tournament. So they're. It's a true tournament feel right now. So it is a survive and advance, and all that matters is the win. I mean, you can nitpick all you want. I know there was a lot of nitpicking going on in both those games because they weren't pretty, and I don't think they played particularly well either game, but they did enough to win, and did enough to win in UTEP at a very tough place to play, and a night when they had a pretty good crowd and a vocal crowd and a lathered up crowd.
Did you see at one point during that game they had to stop play because someone spilled a beer on the basketball?
I did not hear that, but I'm not surprised.
Yes.
I tell you, I was kidding with somebody the other day. That was one of my favorite trips, and I know that there had to be a sober person in the gym when I went there, but I don't think I ever saw them. But they're great fans.
Yes,
and I mean that kidding. I mean, but they're great fans, and it was always when I was covering them, always one of my favorite places to go because I love the fans there and I love the atmosphere, and and it sounded like they had a good atmosphere the other night, which they haven't really had every game for sure like they used to. Right. But hey, found a way to win and in both games, and that's really all that matters. I mean, at this point, that's what matters.
Definitely, and UAB improves to 22-7 overall in the season and 12-4 in conference play, and that does give UAB a one game up on Louisiana Tech in the Conference USA West standings. Because Louisiana Tech had to go to Denton and take on North Texas this past Saturday. And, luckily, North Texas was able to take care of business. And I say luckily, honestly, Steve, it kind of hurt a little bit to see, North Texas wrap up the West Division Saturday. But at the same time, we kind of knew after the previous Saturday once North Texas beat us. And Andy Kennedy even said, post-game after the game last week that, hey, this team's probably going to wrap up the regular season in Conference USA now, and that's exactly what they did. But, hey, they did us a favor on beating La Tech and got that game up on La Tech. And, right now, too, UAB holds the tiebreaker over Louisiana Tech since UAB was able to defeat, a few weeks ago, Louisiana Tech at Louisiana Tech. So it's good to sort of see almost that second seed in sights for UAB. Still got two more to go, and one of those two is going to be Louisiana Tech and Bartow, but it's good to see a game up on Louisiana Tech for UAB trying to get that bye into the quarterfinals of the Conference USA tournament.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt it helps, but bottom line is you got to beat them. If you beat them, then it doesn't matter. That's
right.
If you beat them, then you're in. Then you get that number 2 seed out of the West, and so that's the key. That's the key here. But yeah, I think that's. You always hate to see when somebody else clinches. I don't care where you are. It's never good to see that. But it is what it is. You got to win in Frisco, and to do that, you got to win out this week to put yourself in better position to win in Frisco, and you do that, and you're dancing. And I'll tell you what, if you tell me right now that you get another shot at North Texas, I'm signing up for that right now.
Yes,
because that means you're playing them in the championship game, and obviously each team has a win right now, and each team, and they've shown that there's not a whole lot of difference between the two of them, on the same court, and so we'll see what happens.
Yes, let's try to get that best out of 3 matchup in Frisco for that Conference USA championship game with the tourney bid on the line. But let's go ahead and kind of jump into these two games this past week, Steve. Again, UAB was able to get 2 W's. UAB defeated UTSA Thursday night 68-56, and also defeated UTEP in El Paso 69-66. Just some things, that I at least observations that I had, coming out of both of these games, and you kind of hit on it earlier, Steve, is that this wasn't the best basketball UAB's played, this season. In both of those games, really, really sloppy. And I mean, in particular, the UTEP game, I mean, coming out and turning the ball over like 10 times in the first, or 9 times in the first 10 minutes of the game on the road in the Don Haskins Center. Like, I mean, at that point, we were lucky to only be down by like 5 or 7 points. And, UAB was able to pull out the W, but just looked really sloppy. And I just haven't seen that to that degree, from this team this year.
Yeah, and the thing that was kind of unnerving a little bit was those turnovers were basically unforced. I mean, it wasn't a whole lot of North Texas type defense against you. I mean, it was I just thought a lot of it was just sloppy and unforced. And I think part of that is this time of year, you're tired. There's been some I don't know, it's just there's some questions that arise about any team at this point, about, can they do this? Can they do that? And I just think it's just sort of natural. I don't know that, I mean, that doesn't mean that you can't be worried about it and you can't, that you don't need to take care of it. But I just think it's part of the nature of the beast right now. And that's why it's so important to keep that mentality of, hey, you still got to get better every day, no doubt about that. But you also got to take that mentality of we got to do whatever it takes to win. And if it's a game where you don't play that well, you just got to find a way to do it. And that to me, that's what was that's what was the encouraging thing about that they found ways to do it. I mean, hey, you look at North Texas during what's made North Texas so good during this conference season is they're finding ways to win. They don't always play pretty. That thing against Louisiana Tech the other night wasn't pretty.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing pretty about that, but they found a way to win. When they who was it they played before UAB?
Oh no. Hold on. Oh, it was FAU. It was at FAU.
FAU. Yeah. I mean, that wasn't pretty.
FAU should have won that.
Right. Yeah. FAU missed a lot of open layups. I don't know, wide open, but they found ways to win. Right. And that's what good teams do.
Yeah.
That's what good teams do. And they don't always look pretty doing it. Now you would love for them to it. And there's some things that need to be fixed for UAB right now, going into the last 2 games and the tournament. I mean, there's some things that they need to shore up on, hey, let's face it. I mean, you watch either of those games, especially the UTEP game. I thought, Jelly was. I thought he at times he took shots that he shouldn't take, or did. He had 6 turnovers in that game, trying to do a little too much. And that's not really a criticism of him, but because he's just trying to do what he feels like this team needs to do to win. But there are times where he just did a little too much, just like the North Texas game. There were times where he did a little too much.
Right.
So you got to do that. One thing I loved last week was 12 rebounds by Trey Jemison against UTSA. 12 rebounds by Trey Jemison against UTEP.
Yes.
That was huge. I mean, that was huge to have that. I thought Buffin made some nice plays both games. Obviously he had that big 3 in the UTEP game, but I thought he played solid in the 2 games. That was good to see. I mean, I just think Justin Brown had another big 3 in the UTEP game.
Yes.
I mean, there's some things that you even when it's sloppy and not what you want it to be, there's still some things you sort of can look at and go, okay, well, that was good. And so that's the way you have to look at it. And I think what was it I think it was the UTEP game. I guess they had 7 different players hit a 3.
Yeah,
hit at least 1 3.
Yeah, Ronji Gordon hit a 3, man. He hadn't hit one all day. I saw right when he pulled up for that first 3. you should have seen AK's face. He was like, "Are you kidding me?" But he
Well,
drilled it. He made it, and then he hit 2 more, or he tried 2 more after that and missed
well,
both of them.
well, yeah, that was one of those where you go, "Hey, that's a great shot," and I quit shooting.
Exactly.
That's one of those. But yeah, Tony had a 3. I mean,
Yes.
so I think it was 7, right? 1, 2, 3. I'm counting. Yeah. Well, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So 7 guys hit at least 1 3. It's
Mm-hmm.
great. That's great. Not that some of those guys need to be taking many threes, but in the flow of it, maybe occasionally when you need it, they can take it. So that was good. And then Jelly at the end of the game made some really big plays.
Yeah.
And he ended up with 7 assists again. Now 6 turnovers is too much, but 7 assists is pretty nice.
Yeah, and I don't have it in front of me, but I'm very curious to see how many of those turnovers were in the first half versus the second. Because I think in the second half he played a lot better.
I do too. Yeah, and I think they did as a team too. I think they settled in a little better in the second half than they were in the first half, just in general. And a lot of times too, the player that's credited with the turnover, and I'm not saying him in particular in this, but you'll make a pass that's really a pretty nice pass, and the guy just won't get there, and the turnover's on you. Well, it was a pretty nice pass. He just didn't make the play. So there, there's a lot of that too when you see a guy with a lot of turnovers sometimes.
Yeah, and one of those in particular, I remember, in that UTEP game was from Jelly trying to dish it off to KJ Buffin, and KJ was thinking that Jelly was going for the shot, and I can't remember if I think that was in the first half, but it was one of those, like, very quickly Jelly looked at KJ and threw his arms out like, "Why weren't you ready?" And KJ was like, "Well, I thought you were going to," and that's also too, it was still early on in the game, and they were trying to gel together, and I don't want to make excuses, but that's a quick turnaround going from San Antonio all the way to El Paso within a 24-hour, within a 2-day time frame.
Yeah.
And I know I don't want to make that because, we're about to get into, the tournament where you're going to play every day, hopefully. But I don't know. I've never been on that trip to El Paso, but from what I hear, it's a pretty long, it's the same state, but it's a long travel.
Oh yeah, it takes you better pack a lunch to get out there. You'll be gonna be out there a while, but it's great when you get there. I love El Paso, but
yes.
But yeah, I mean that's not an easy trip, and this but everybody does it, and you just have to you have to make do and make it work, and they did, and that's the bottom line. They did. It doesn't matter. Again, you can nitpick all you want, and as a coaching staff, you better be nitpicking, and as a players, you better be nitpicking because that's how you get better. But from the outside looking in, to me, you're into your survive and advance mode of playing. Right now, you just do the stuff that it takes to do to win the game, and then you go to practice the next day and try to fix the stuff that wasn't good, and you move on. I mean, that's all you can do, and that's all you really need to do right now.
That's it. I mean, and we're going to get into the UTSA game in a little bit, but just looking a little more at that UTEP game. I mean, look, you're down 7 at the half. Nothing's working right. You're not shooting great. You're turning the ball over left and right. You're able to go in the locker room, regroup, come out on fire on a quick run, and end up winning by 3. So you outscore UTEP 42-32 in that second half. And let's face it, man. Sule Boom for UTEP, I mean, that was their offense really the whole game. He ended up with 26 points.
Yeah.
Nobody else was in double. Oh, wait, no, somebody on the bench. Okay, Kennedy.
Yeah,
and that was the guy that came back for the first time since December, which I didn't even realize he's been out that long. But he was the only other guy in double digits. I mean, it was really Sule Boom. It was the Sule Boom show for the UTEP Miners. And we knew that going in. We knew how good he was. We knew he led the conference in points per game. But I thought overall UAB did a good job on defense. Is that fair to say?
I think so. I think they played well defensively.
I want to see more steals though. We haven't seen many steals lately.
Yeah, but I mean, I thought they played okay. I mean, not many steals and not the turnovers. UTEP only turned the ball over 8 times, and you got to for UAB to have success, they need to have more than that. They
Yeah.
need to force and get a lot of points off those turnovers. So that could have been better, but that's okay. I mean, that's again, but you look at though, they only forced 8 turnovers, but they got 14 points off those turnovers.
Yeah.
And UTEP forced 17 turnovers and only got 13 points off those 17 turnovers.
Yes.
So the points turned it. UAB was able to turn their turnovers, the UTEP's turnovers into points. That's huge. Because because it's pretty demeaning, or it's pretty not demeaning. It's pretty what's the word I'm thinking of? It's kind of deflating for a team when you're turning a team over, and then you have a bunch of empty possessions after the turnover. Because you're sitting there, you're turning them over and you're turning them over and you're turning them over, but you're getting nothing out of it. That can deflate you a little bit, and so that's a important stat in this game, really, that the turnovers didn't turn into as many points, as they could have, the 17 turnovers, and that's pretty efficient to get 8 turnovers and turn those into 14 points, so I mean, that's a bucket almost every turnover.
Right. And another huge thing too, Steve, was just second chance points. You look at the rebounds. My God, UTEP only had 5 offensive rebounds that whole game compared to UAB having 14 and 42 total rebounds. And that's just goes back to what you were talking about earlier. You got to give kudos to the guys down low, like Trey Jemison. I mean, he may have only had 8 points, but that guy, Buddy, was down there rebounding the whole game. 3 offensively and 9 defensive rebounds for a total of 12 rebounds. And those 8 points, I feel like a couple of those were dunks, and it was just so good to see him finish down low, and that's something, that he struggled with at times too. Going back to the North Texas game, I remember definitely that he missed a wide open dunk, but he was definitely able to take advantage, this week in both games, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and that's huge moving forward. Going forward, especially because a lot of what you look at right now is what it's going to mean to you going forward, and if you can keep him, being productive down there, and you're right, finishing, not necessarily scoring a lot of points, but finishing the opportunities and creating other opportunities
and being aggressive
for guys,
right?
So if he gets an offensive rebound and doesn't get the putback but throws it back out, and that possession turns into either a 3 or a 2, but turns into a basket, then that's basically the same thing as him finishing up, so that's you gonna need a lot of that going forward. There's going to be games, to me. Conference tournament games are always such a grind.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are tired at the end of the season, you are beat up at the end of the season. Then you have to go back to back to back. You have to play, 3 nights in a row if you're fortunate, 4 if you're not. And you have to find ways to just grit out or get out a win. And it isn't always going to be pretty. You're going to have to, you're going to have to be fortunate, but you're going to have make plays. I mean, it's just it's such a fine line. I mean, you look at the, I always think back to the 2015 15 tournament when it won in Birmingham,
mm-hmm.
and that first game against West Kentucky.
Oh yeah.
What if that guy hits that shot from the corner?
Mm.
I mean, and he could have. I mean, It was, and first off, why they didn't just go down to Kevin Fant, who was killing UAB all day. And then gave to that cat in the corner. I didn't quite understand that. But, what if the shot goes in? I mean, it's such a fine line, and then things change,
mm-hmm.
I mean, just the whole story changes, so you're going to have to find ways during the tournament to pull things out, to pull games out. And, maybe if he keep doing that, that's going to be big, in this tournament and going forward.
Definitely, and it's encouraging to see UAB pull out two in a row, on the road in conference play. That's very encouraging to see for this ball team, and hopefully they can get another one this Wednesday night on the road in Hattiesburg at Southern Miss. Make it 3 in a row, but just gut out wins, find a way to win, and that's something that North Texas definitely has done this year, but also in the conference tournament, last year. I really think that, well, obviously, I thought UAB was really good last year, but I thought, Charles Bassey in Western Kentucky, I thought they were the best team in Conference USA last year. But North Texas, hey, they came in and played 4 days in a row. Like, they didn't get a quarterfinal ball. They played 4 days in a row and were able to just gut out every single one of those 4 wins to advance to the tournament. So definitely just encouraging to see UAB get 2 in a row on the road. But just, hey, we'll take a 1-point win. It may be ugly, but as long as we get the dub, that's really all that matters. One other quick thing, too, that I noticed, coming off of these 2 games against UTSA and UTEP was that UAB shot their free throws a lot better, this week than they did the past week. And this is on the road, too. Now, granted, they only got to the line 12 times in El Paso, but hey, you hit 10 to 12 for 83%,
And that makes it more important to shoot well. If you don't get there much, you better make them.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, you better make them. I mean, they're 10 to 12, and UTEP. What UTEP ended up what?
They had double that. Yeah. Let me see. They were. They were 9 of 16. Oh wow,
9 of 16.
56. And I think Sule Boom was like a 90% free throw shooter. He missed like 4 free throws.
Yeah. So look at that. I mean, that's a difference in a win and loss. Just like the North Texas thing was a difference in a win and loss for UAB shooting free throws at home. So
good point.
Oh, I mean, free throws. That's another thing moving forward. That's that determines winners, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge. And so it was nice to see that, and you got to keep that up.
Definitely. And then going to the UTSA game, UAB was 15 of 21 from the free throw line for 71.4%. Let's just talk a little bit about this UTSA game too before we move on. Double-digit win on the road. We'll take it. KJ Buffin played a hell of a game, 16 points, shot 50% from the field, and hit 4 of 5 from the free throw line. UAB, another really sloppy game, kind of like the UTEP game, not as sloppy. Let's see the turnovers in that ball game. UAB only had 12, but they were able to force the Roadrunners into 18 turnovers. And I remember explicitly, the announcer on ESPN Plus was like, "This isn't even a challenging full court press. I can't believe UTSA." Kind of not even giving UAB any credit at all. But hey, a really good defensive effort for UAB Thursday night, and I mean that's what we need to see. Going forward, because it's like you mentioned earlier, Steve, this is a defensive first team. UAB is. If we can just get that defense right, force the other team into a bunch of turnovers, make some of our shots, and don't turn the ball over ourselves, I feel really confident that, hey, we can go in there and win in the Star.
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, I think absolutely. But, I do think it's going to take contributions from everybody. I don't think this is going to be, I don't think it's going to be not that there can't be a game in the tournament that
the jelly show
or even somebody else, even if it's Quan Jackson or whoever. I mean, but you don't need that. You need to spread it around, and hey, Jelly's good enough to do that. Quan Jackson's good enough to do that, to take over games, with his defense and turning those into points. But, I'd rather see those type of things where it's spread out and guys are, a lot of guys are getting involved. And I think that's kind of how you're going to win this thing.
Definitely. And the good thing, coming out of the UTSA game was 4 different guys were in double figures. You look at KJ, like I mentioned, 16, Trey Jemison, 10, Jelly had 14. And Taven Lovin, coming off of the bench with 10, and that monster dunk he had in that game in San Antonio. Taven, that's one of the guys that I would really like to see, try to not step up more, because he stepped up in different games, but maybe be more consistent, if that makes sense. Because, we know Taven, from the last couple of years, this dude can play. And for some reason, I don't know what it is. Like,
I mean, I still contend he's the best player in this team.
Yeah.
And hey, Jelly Walker's had the best season, and he's tremendous. Mm-hmm. But I still think, to me, the Taven Lovin is the most talented guy in his team. I mean, he can take over a game, and I do think that they need to find some ways to feature him a little more. I've said that kind of for, a long time,
Right.
but he can take over, and I do sort of feel like there's going to be a game in the tournament where he does that, and they get him they get it to him in positions where he can do that, and he's going to take over, and so but that's a good thing. I mean, they have a lot of guys that can have those type of nights,
Yeah.
and you just sort of have to find ways to feature who needs to be featured that night, for to kind of play off what they're giving you and say, okay, well, this is what we can do, and this is what we're going to do. And so you need to find a way to do that, and moving forward, into this tournament.
Definitely. Well, again, UAB able to get 2 W's on the road in Conference USA play, again defeating the UTSA Roadrunners 68-56 and UTEP 69-66. So good for our UAB Blazers. Now, heading into the last week of the regular season, UAB does have 2 final games. The first one being Wednesday night in Hattiesburg at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time, and this game will be televised on ESPN Plus. And the final home game Saturday at 2 o'clock p.m. Hopefully you all can make it down to Bartow Arena to cheer on the Blazers on Senior Day in that game. But if you can't, that game is actually going to be televised on Stadium. So, Steve, let's just talk just a couple minutes about these 2 games. I mean, UAB has already beaten both of these teams. UAB defeated just a few weeks ago, beat Southern Miss by double digits in Bartow Arena. Just really looking at the team for Southern Miss, you've got to be prepared to be able to guard Tyler Stevenson for Southern Miss. He's averaging 14.5 points per game. He actually scored 24 points a few weeks ago in Bartow. But the thing for him, this I just noticed, is that he hasn't played the last 2 games. And I tried, doing my prep for this podcast, I tried to see I don't know if it's an injury or if it's COVID related or what the deal is, but there's a chance UAB might see Southern Miss without him. I hope they're still preparing for him because, I mean, really, he is that Southern Miss team. Pinckney also can play well, but really, UAB is going to have to focus on doing what they didn't do the previous matchup and trying to stop Stevenson.
Yeah, no, I think that's the key if he plays, and no doubt. But I think it's just one of those games where UAB's just got to kind of take care of themselves too. I mean, I think that certainly take care of themselves, do what they're capable of doing. I think they'll come out there with a win. Again, they've struggled. Now they struggled to do that at times, obviously, as we know and seen, and gnashed our teeth over a few times, and,
right.
So but I think if they go in there and take care of business, they can come out with a win. It certainly won't be a tough atmosphere.
No, I don't think anybody will be there. Yeah.
No, I mean it'll be empty, and that old building, which I just absolutely love.
Yeah, Southern Miss is on the baseball season. You look at their fans; they're just talking about baseball now.
Yeah, which is understandable, So, but go in there and take care of business, and and then come back for a big one on Saturday.
Definitely. Hey, real quick on baseball, I hate to throw this in. Shout out to Casey Dunn and the boys. Man, getting a sweep
Great
over
start.
Northwestern and taking 2 out of 3 against Southeastern Louisiana. Hey, heck of a start.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, now moving on to Saturday. We know this is going to be a toughie, but with La Tech coming into Bartow, it's always a tough matchup with La Tech, especially with Lofton Jr. down there, down low for the Bulldogs. But hey, if you can try and stop Lofton, and I know I said try, the way Trey Jemison has been playing these last couple weeks, Steve, down low, if he can just somehow body up Lofton a few times and get some extra rebounds, I think UAB can get the sweep over the Bulldogs, to beat them twice this year. And it would be great to do. And definitely, there's a chance if UAB wins Wednesday night in Hattiesburg and Louisiana Tech loses Wednesday night against ODU, I mean, that's a big if. I mean, UAB can go ahead and lock up that number 2 seed, without even playing the game. And I actually saw somebody on Twitter, I believe it was Auburn Blazer, I think, or somebody said that regardless if we, as long as we win, even if we win Wednesday against Southern Miss, it really doesn't matter what happens. UAB would get the tiebreaker over Louisiana Tech, but I would nonetheless like to finish it on the hardwood and get these 2 W's. But hey, it all starts with stopping Lofton Jr. down low for the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs.
Yeah, and I think that the one mistake I thought that Louisiana Tech did in the first matchup with UAB was they didn't force the issue with Lofton in the first half. I didn't feel like
They
didn't feel
didn't.
like now.
Part of it too, though, was they got in that big hole quick too, though, and they were trying.
Yeah. But I mean, you got a whole game to play. You don't, there's no such thing as a 16-point shot. So
right.
You just kind of keep plugging away. And I thought in the second half they just were determined that they were going to run their offense through him, and UAB didn't have a good answer for him in that second half.
No, he's good.
That was the difference in the first and second half in that game. Unfortunately, UAB had enough to win the game, but I think that you're going to see this Saturday. I think what you're going to see is that, Lofton's going to be your number 1, 2, and 3 option right away.
Yeah,
I mean, definitely. I think and so UAB is going to have to find a way to give Jimson some help, because that's the other thing. If you get him in foul trouble quick, that's huge. That's huge. So UAB is going to have to find a way to help, and I would be shocked and just shocked if they don't immediately just start pounding the ball down the Lofton. And maybe start before the game starts. Maybe when you come out in warm-ups, that's all you do. You just
don't let the refs know that they'll start the game with Trey with 3 fouls already.
Well, that's true. That's true. They will. But and not that there's a lot of other talented players on Louisiana Tech, but I just think that to me, it's pretty obvious that what you need to do is establish him right away, because I didn't think UAB had a great answer against him in that second half.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it's officiated, I mean, he gets away with a lot now.
He does,
man.
He does.
And if they let him, shuffle his feet and create contact and do that kind of stuff, which they tend to do, then there's not a whole lot you can do with one guy. So they're gonna have to find ways. But it'll be fun, man. It'll be, hopefully there'll be a big old crowd there, and let's get this thing loud. Hopefully, the same sort of atmosphere as the North Texas game was, and just see what happens.
Definitely excited for that, and hopefully our Blazers can finish this year out strong and get a couple more dubs and head into Frisco with all the momentum in the world and everything on the line at the Star in Frisco. But guys, we were thinking about doing something speaking of Frisco, and we need some feedback from our listeners. So just let us know on Twitter, or shoot Steve or me a DM or something on Twitter, and let us know what you think. But we were thinking about doing kind of like following the Conference USA tournament as it goes. Like, say UAB plays hopefully in the quarterfinals, we break down that matchup, and then throw that in your feed for that day, and then immediately the next morning have a semifinal, preview ready for you guys. These aren't going to be long episodes. These are going to be short episodes, but just let us know what you think. This is something that Steve and I have been kicking around from the last couple of weeks about wanting to do. Knowing our luck, we'll do one, and then that might be it. But hopefully that won't be the case.
Nah, I feel confident. Be confident now. Come on, be confident.
I don't know, man. You were talking about Mike Davis earlier, so it kind of got me nervous. So
be confident now.
There you go. But guys, let us know what you think. This is something we want to do. But like I said, they're not going to be long episodes. But just give us your feedback about what you think. But we will definitely be back next week for basketball to recap what happens in these 2 games with Southern Miss and Louisiana Tech, and get you ready for Frisco. But as always, guys, we'll see you next time, and go Blazers.